The desert night stretched endlessly. Officer Daniel Rourke drove along Highway 19, a two-lane ribbon of asphalt cutting through miles of scrub and sand. The radio crackled faintly with static. It was Friday, August 14, 1998, a night hot enough that the engine heat from his Ford Crown Victoria blended with the suffocating desert air. Daniel was experienced, 12 years on the force, but tonight something felt different. At 10:47 p.m., he radioed dispatch. "Dispatch, this is Unit 24. I've got a car off the road near mile marker 66. No signs of movement yet. I'll check it out." That was the last anyone heard from him. Minutes passed. Static. A faint whisper of wind. Then silence. Before we go further, take a moment to support the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. These stories are more than entertainment. They honor people whose lives were cut short and help us remember the importance of vigilance, courage, and human connection. Now, let's step into that fateful night. Deputy Mark Healy, Daniel's longtime partner, drove cautiously along the desert road after failing to reach him over the radio. The Crown Victoria's headlights were still on when he arrived, slicing through the darkness like twin beacons. Mark slowed, noting the driver's door swinging open. The keys were in the ignition, the radio mic dangling. Daniel's hat sat perfectly on the passenger seat, a small, almost poignant reminder of his presence. Mark's flashlight swept over the ground. His stomach dropped. Footprints, just 10 feet from the car, stopped abruptly in the sand. But a second set of smaller, uneven prints led into the darkness. "Dan!" Mark called. The wind carried only its own whisper back. A cold knot formed in his stomach. By dawn, the search had grown massive. Helicopters circled overhead, spotlights scanning every inch of desert. Ground teams scoured the sand dunes and scrubland. Dogs tracked briefly, then lost the scent near an old service road. For 2 days, officers found fragments, a broken radio mic, a torn piece of uniform, a few drops of dried blood. Nothing more. Back in San Loma, the small desert town where Daniel lived, panic had begun to take root. "He's out there somewhere," his wife, Mara, told reporters, voice breaking. "He wouldn't leave. Please, bring him home." Weeks passed. Leads dried up. The search officially shifted from rescue to recovery, though no one dared say it aloud. San Loma was a town where everyone knew everyone. Daniel had checked on elderly neighbors, bought Christmas gifts for families in need, and even repaired broken porch lights in the summer heat. When he vanished, the town changed. The diner he loved shut early every night. Local kids whispered about his disappearance at school. Truckers slowed as they passed his last known patrol route. Locals lit candles nightly at the sheriff's station, hoping to guide him home. "We need to find him," Sheriff James Cole told officers. "Every hour that passes, the desert buries him deeper." But the desert has a way of swallowing secrets. By October 2000, the case had gone cold. Then, hikers exploring the Cinder Flats, a desolate stretch 30 miles south of San Loma, noticed a metallic glint in the sand. At first, they assumed it was trash. But closer inspection revealed a police-issued flashlight, engraved faintly, R024. They alerted authorities. Investigators unearthed Daniel's full set of patrol tools. Handcuffs, belt buckle, flashlight, badge fragment. A few feet away, something more shocking emerged: sun-bleached human bones. DNA testing later revealed that these remains belonged to Lydia Trent, a young woman missing since 1998, the same night Daniel vanished. Mara Rourke returned to the station. She clutched Daniel's badge, eyes hollow with grief. "He wasn't careless," she whispered. "He died trying to help someone, like always." Detective Ray Malden, now leading the reopened case, promised. "We're going to find out what happened, Mara. I promise you. One way or another." Investigators returned to the Cinder Flats, armed with ground-penetrating radar, shovels, and forensic tools. The desert was quiet. Only the soft whistle of wind through the scrub broke the silence. Detective Ray Malden crouched near the excavation site, watching forensic technicians carefully brush away layers of sand. "You sure these weren't moved?" he asked, pointing at the partially exposed patrol tools. "Positive," replied tech analyst Linda Chen, her gloved hand steady. "These weren't left to the elements. Someone buried them deliberately." The team unearthed Daniel's handcuffs, his service belt, and fragments of his badge. But beside them, partially covered, were bones, not Daniel's, but those of a young woman. DNA analysis later confirmed her identity. Lydia Trent, reported missing 2 years prior. "She disappeared the same night as Daniel," Malden muttered. "It can't be a coincidence." With the new discovery, the case was reopened. Investigators scoured Daniel's last known patrol route, re-interviewed townsfolk, and reviewed cold missing persons reports from 1996 to 1998. Several details emerged. Lydia Trent had been last seen leaving a gas station near Dry Creek after midnight on August 14, 1998. Daniel Rourke's last radio call coincided perfectly with her disappearance. A faint set of tire tracks near the burial site suggested someone had driven a vehicle deep into the desert. Detective Malden convened his team. "We're looking at a very calculated crime," he said. "Whoever did this knew the terrain, the patrol schedules, everything." Records led investigators to Earl Danner, a local tow truck operator who had been active in the area during the late 1990s. Danner had been questioned previously in unrelated missing persons cases, but he'd never been charged. "I was just helping stranded motorists," Danner said during questioning, leaning back in his chair. His eyes were cold, unreadable. "You were nearby the night Daniel disappeared," Malden said, watching him closely. "I'm retired now." "That was a long time ago," Danner replied. Detectives obtained his call logs from 1998. 3 calls to dispatch that night, all from different payphones along the highway, matched the time of Daniel's last radio transmission. Something in Malden's gut told him Danner knew more than he was admitting. The forensic lab worked tirelessly to analyze the recovered tools. What they found shocked them. The handcuffs had traces of blood not belonging to Daniel, later confirmed as Lydia's. A radio mic fragment from Daniel's car matched debris found in Danner's old tow truck. Soil samples from beneath the patrol tools indicated intentional burial, consistent with a vehicle having transported them. "He staged this," Malden said. "He wanted them hidden, but not too deep to go unnoticed forever." This led to an important conclusion. Daniel had likely stopped to help Lydia, only to be intercepted by Danner. Mara Rourke returned to the station, holding her husband's tarnished badge. She didn't cry, not yet. Instead, she asked the same question she'd asked for 2 years. "Where is he?" Malden took a deep breath. "We found his tools, Mara. And we found another person that night. Daniel likely tried to help her. That's why this is happening now. We're close." She nodded slowly, tears finally welling in her eyes. "He didn't die alone," she whispered. "He was trying to save her." Investigators traced Danner's tow routes using old logbooks, aerial maps, and eyewitness accounts. All roads led to desolate desert paths rarely traveled by the public. Using ground-penetrating radar, teams discovered several shallow graves along abandoned dirt tracks. Cadaver dogs reacted immediately, barking and circling each mound. One mound revealed a leather boot and a belt stamped with Dr., unmistakably Daniel's. The team began to piece together a horrifying timeline. 1. Daniel stops to help Lydia. 2. Danner appears, claiming assistance. 3. Both are ambushed. 4. Daniel is killed and buried alongside Lydia. 5. Tools and personal effects buried to cover the crime. With evidence mounting, Detective Malden prepared to bring Danner in for questioning. Investigators pulled missing persons reports dating back 4 years, finding striking similarities in disappearances, stranded motorists, desolate roads, and no witnesses. Danner's old truck was located behind a service yard. Inside, a broken radio mic matching Daniel's, jewelry and personal items from other victims, faded documentation of service calls, some coinciding with prior disappearances. "We finally have the proof we need," Malden said. For the townspeople of San Loma, the news was surreal. Daniel, the man who had always protected them, was gone, but his death was not in vain. At the sheriff's office, Mara finally allowed herself to cry. "He didn't fail," she said. "He stopped to help. That's who he was." Detective Malden felt the weight of the years bearing down on him. "It's a miracle we found him after all this time," he whispered. On November 5, 2000, at dawn, Detective Ray Malden and a tactical team surrounded Earl Danner's home. The desert sun had barely risen, casting long shadows across the sand and cacti. Danner stepped out of his house in worn jeans, bare feet crunching on the gravel. His expression was unreadable, neither fear nor surprise. "Earl Danner, you're under arrest," Malden announced. Danner's eyes flicked toward the horizon. "You think you're doing something noble," he said quietly. "You don't understand the desert. It takes what it wants." Inside his home, investigators found a grim collection of trophies, jewelry and trinkets belonging to missing women, clothing with DNA evidence, handwritten notes detailing his movements along desolate highways. It painted a chilling picture. Danner had been preying on stranded motorists for years, using his tow truck as both lure and trap. The trial began in early 2002, drawing attention from the entire state. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, families, and local residents who had long remembered Daniel Rourke's disappearance. Prosecutors presented forensic evidence connecting Danner to multiple victims, including Daniel Rourke's patrol tools, Lydia Trent's remains, artifacts from other unresolved missing person cases. "The evidence is clear," the prosecutor told the jury. "This man used his job to exploit the helpless, and one brave officer, Daniel Rourke, tried to stop him." Danner remained largely silent, staring blankly at the floor. His small smirk when Daniel's badge was displayed unnerved everyone in the courtroom. During the trial, the stories of other victims came to light. Angela Pierce, 27, vanished along the same corridor of Highway 19 in 1997. Witnesses recalled seeing a red tow truck offering help. Sandra Moreno, 22, last seen waiting for a flat tire to be changed in 1996, had similar evidence linking her disappearance to Danner. Families testified, describing the grief of not knowing, the way life paused while their loved ones were missing. For Mara Rourke, it was almost unbearable, realizing Daniel's death had exposed a predator who had terrorized the same roads for years. "I just want them to know he tried to save people," Mara said quietly in a courtroom statement. The prosecution spent hours detailing how Daniel's and Lydia's remains were discovered. Cadaver dogs led the team to shallow desert graves. Ground-penetrating radar identified soil disturbances consistent with shallow burial. DNA analysis confirmed the remains belonged to Daniel and Lydia. Blood traces on handcuffs and belts confirmed a struggle occurred. The jury listened, rapt, as the story unfolded like a dark crime novel, only it was real. "He didn't die in vain," Detective Malden said to a journalist outside the courtroom. "The desert gave back what it had taken." News of Danner's arrest and the trial spread quickly. San Loma, a quiet town that had mourned Daniel quietly for 2 years, now felt a mixture of relief and horror. Local businesses placed memorials and photos in shop windows. At Daniel's favorite diner, a table was left empty each night, with a badge placed on it in remembrance. "He was a hero," the diner owner said. And finally, the truth is out. Even outside Arizona, the case made national headlines, a grim reminder of the dangers officers face every night and the vulnerability of isolated desert highways. Mara Rourke visited the desert site months after the trial. She walked silently along the dunes, carrying Daniel's badge in her hand. "He stopped to help," she whispered to the wind. And because of that, the truth came out. Detective Malden watched from a distance. "It's hard to find closure," he said. "But at least the story is known now. Daniel's courage saved more than we can count." The desert remained quiet, but for the first time, it didn't feel empty. Danner was sentenced to life without parole, bringing justice to families who had waited years for answers. Daniel Rourke's memorial was placed along Highway 19, near mile marker 66. In memory of Officer Daniel Rourke, 1959 to 1998. He stopped to help. Truckers passing at night swear they see flashing lights in the distance, a brief glimmer of a patrol car. Locals say it's just a trick of the desert heat. Those who knew Daniel believe it's him, still watching, still protecting. By mid-2002, Earl Danner's trial had concluded. He was found guilty on all counts, sentenced to life without parole. For the families of the victims, the verdict brought relief, but no one pretended the emotional scars had healed. Mara Rourke, Daniel's widow, sat silently in the courtroom as the sentence was read. Her hands gripped the pew. Tears streamed down her face. "He was trying to help," she whispered. "And now, justice will be served." Detective Malden, standing outside, spoke to a reporter. "The desert finally gave up its secrets. It doesn't forgive, but it sometimes reveals the truth." Meanwhile, Lydia Trent's parents traveled from Phoenix to the Cinder Flats to witness the recovery site. "We never stopped hoping," her mother said, voice breaking. "Even when the years passed, we believed she was out there." They stood at the small memorial erected beside the graves, each holding a single white rose. "Daniel gave her a chance," her father whispered. "He was brave. He didn't deserve this." For Lydia's family, the recovery of her remains brought both closure and lingering grief, the knowledge that her final moments had intersected with a hero's courage. San Loma, a town of only 12,000 people, held a public memorial for Daniel Rourke. Streets were lined with officers in dress uniforms. Flags flew at half-mast along the highway he patrolled. Hundreds of locals attended, including children who had grown up knowing his story. At the ceremony, Mara placed Daniel's badge atop the casket before it was lowered into the ground. "He didn't die because he was careless," she told the crowd. "He died because he cared. And that's the kind of man I'll remember forever." Detective Malden watched quietly, feeling the weight of years finally lift. "Justice isn't always perfect," he muttered. "But sometimes it's enough." Even after Danner's conviction, locals reported strange sightings along Highway 19. Headlights in the distance. A fleeting figure in a patrol uniform. Some dismissed it as desert mirages. But for those who knew Daniel, It's him. He's still out there, keeping watch. The desert, silent for years, had returned a measure of peace, but its lessons remained. Courage matters, even when invisible. One person's actions can ripple through time. The forgotten roads sometimes reveal the truth, no matter how long it takes. Weeks after the trial, Malden returned to the site where Daniel's tools had been found. He knelt, brushing sand from a partially buried boot. "You didn't die in vain, Daniel," he whispered. "Your courage stopped him. And now, everyone knows your story." He glanced toward the horizon, golden sunlight painting the desert in soft hues. Sometimes, the desert gives back more than it takes. And sometimes, heroes live on long after they're gone. Daniel Rourke's story is a reminder of the human cost of bravery, and the dangers faced by those who dedicate their lives to helping others. His tools, his badge, and his sacrifice serve as a permanent mark on the desert he once patrolled. Mara Rourke continues to share Daniel's story, speaking at officer safety conferences, local schools, and community events, keeping the memory of her husband alive. Lydia Trent's family honors her by supporting missing persons initiatives in Arizona. The victims whose cases were uncovered due to Daniel's tragic fate are remembered, their names no longer lost to time. Thank you for watching the full story of Officer Daniel Rourke, a man who vanished while serving others, and whose disappearance exposed one of the most chilling crimes in Arizona's history. If you want to help keep these stories alive, please like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue sharing real-life stories that honor those we've lost. Remember, sometimes the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Sometimes the desert gives it back.